Hello and welcome to this class. So in this class, I'm going to be taking us through how to understand the structure of HTML documents, so it makes it a lot easier for you to style in CSS. So something I've noticed with beginners is when they start HTML, they're basically just struggling and creating elements over and over without actually understanding what this element does. So I'm going to put this into context so that when you're creating your elements, you basically understand what you're doing. And so you don't have a lot of redundant divs and spans that you are not using or that are not contributing anything to your code. So this just makes it a lot more visible and makes it easy for you to understand. So before we start, we're going to be checking out a design I found on Figma, and we're basically going to be creating this, but just the HTML for now. In the next class, we're going to handle the CSS side of things and actually make it look exactly like this. So as you can see, in this document, we just have a series of text at the top, and then we have a large block of text, a fast blockchain, scalable AI, and a bit of descriptions, then two buttons and some design at the bottom. So once you notice is at the top, this is basically the nav bar, even though it's not separated like you see in most websites. This is the design aesthetic, and I kind of dig it. So we have the logo on the left, then we have the links in the middle, and then we have some social media pages on the right. So we're going to be creating this shortly, but before we go into that, I'm going to draw this out and basically explain what this is doing. So next we have an H1. This is basically an H1 element. Both of them are, and then we have a paragraph, and then we have some buttons, like I stated earlier. So now let's switch into the design software. I'll be breaking this down further. So we have a nav bar, and then we have a body. So I'm going to duplicate this just to show the body. The nav bar is directly continuous. It's a direct continuation of the body, which is why we didn't notice it. But so yeah, we have the nav bar, and then we have the main hero section, or I called it body earlier, but it's the main hero section. So I'm just going to go with that now, so it doesn't confuse you with the body element. So okay, naturally the nav bar is not this high, so I'm just going to break that down a little bit. And then inside the nav bar, we have the logo. We'll go into that shortly. So I'm going to represent that with a rectangle. And then we have some links. Represent that with smaller rectangles. I think there was 5 of them, or 4. Okay, it's 5 of them. And each and every one of them was kind of in the middle, so I'll just group this together and shift it into the middle. Okay, and then we have some social media elements. I'll present those with squares for now. Alright, so there were 4 of them, if I remember correctly. Yeah, there's about 4 of them. Yep. And then next we have the H1 element, which is here. We present those with a block of, I'm going to present with a rectangle as well. So let's just switch back. So we have the first block of text, then the second block of text, which is not as wide, but just as high. Yep. And then we have some paragraph, which I represent with lines. The lines were black, so I just make them black. So these lines here, they're basically paragraph. And finally, we have 2 buttons, which I represent with blocks again. Apologies. Alright, so we basically have our structure here. So we have the logo, the links, the social media icons, and then we have the H1, and then paragraphs and 2 buttons, which is all contained inside this div that has a background image. So let's break this down. So first things first, we're going to create a nav. We're going to create an element called a nav, which has this white, anyway, I'll just say nav, which is pointing directly at this container right here. This is the nav. So we are going to create an element called a nav, and then this entire section here, this social media section, we're going to put that in a div. And this div will have 4 images inside of it. 4 image tags inside of it. Then this section as well, we'll be putting them in a div as well. And this div will have 5 list elements in them. So it's going to have 5 list elements in them. And finally, we're going to have this one, which will be either we use an SVG for this, or we use an maybe H3. So you can easily just write it out, because the designer used, I'm going to use an SVG or a PNG for this, but the designer actually used a text for it. So you can give it an H3, since we're going to be using an H1 for this, or you give it an H1 as well. But when we style it, we have to make sure we are styling it while it's within this nav bar. So when we get to the CSS, we'll worry about that, but let's call it an H1 for now. So basically we have a nav which contains an SVG, a div that has 5 elements inside of it, and then another div that has 4 image elements inside of it. Those image elements are all SVGs, which would be icon 1, icon 2, icon 3, icon 4 for each social media page. And then now we have our hero section. So we have our hero section, and this hero section contains everything here. So it contains, this is equal to an H1, then a paragraph, and finally buttons. So the hero section contains H, paragraph, and buttons. So so that's basically it. That's all the elements we're going to be creating. So we've seen the structure all drawn out. Now let's go into our VS Code and actually start to program this. So I'm going to switch into VS Code now and start working on this. So in VS Code, VS Code is my preferred note document, my preferred IDE. And in here I have an app.js. We're not going to be using that. That's for another class. Then we have index.html, and we have styles.css. So we're going to start off with the index.html, and there's a boilerplate called creator called Emmet. Makes a lot of repetitive things easier. So I'm just going to create an exclamation mark and press enter. So this will bring us to this viewport, and most of the boilerplate we're going to be creating has already been done for us. So I'm going to rename this to crypto site. I think that was a crypto website. All right. So we have our doc type HTML, lang, en. Then we have head. I'm pretty sure most of the tutorials we've gone through by now would have taught you about this. If it hasn't, you'll learn it along the way. Just copy what I have on screen, and that should make things a lot easier. So the head section never contains any code except for meta tags and bringing in links and stuff. So when we decide to link our CSS document into this, we're going to put it in the head tag. So now within the body tag, let's create a nav. So I'm going to create a nav. Please make sure you're on lowercase. I'm currently on my caps lock was on, that's why I was in the uppercase. Always make sure you code in lowercase. So within the nav, let's go back and check. So within the nav, we're going to have 3 main elements. So we want an image image tag. Then we want a div that contains 5 lists. We could either put this in a div, and let me show you how that's done. So we want a div, and then finally we want and yet another div. So we're going to have one image tag. Remember, image tags are self-closing. Then we're going to have a div. And finally, we're going to have yet another div. So the reason we are having 3 divs is so that we can place these 3 divs, these 3 elements side by side. So that's why we are having 3 divs. So if you notice, within the nav element, which we have in our drawing here, within this nav element, we have 3 elements, 1, 2, and 3. So these 3 elements, they are basically side by side. So this is the reason we have to create 3 elements first, so that when we're in the styles section, when we're in the CSS section, we can apply a flex display to it, and this will put them side by side. But in the meantime, let's create the elements we need within these divs. So within the first div, I'm going to check out the links I need to create in there. So I will switch to the design, and want smart contract, services, solutions, roadmaps, and white paper. So I'm going to do a P tag. In this div, I'm going to have several P tags. Okay, so first one is smart contracts. And I'll just duplicate this a few times and rename them to 5 of them. So we have smart contracts, solutions, services, then solutions. So services, solutions, roadmap, and finally we have white paper. All right. So within this div, we're going to give this a class name of links, and then the next div, we're just going to give that a class name of social icons. Okay, so let's press enter. And now within there, we're going to have 4 image tags, img, self-closing of course, and duplicate that 4 times for our various elements. So I'm going to create a folder in here and call it src. And within this place is where I'm going to put in all the links we need. So you can get a link to the Figma file in the description below, and I'll show you how to export the files just to make it easy. So I'm just going to go in there now and export them. So let's start with Serendale. So you want to click on Serendale and scroll all the way to the bottom, and you should see export Serendale here. So you have the option to choose SVG, JPEG, PDF, or PNG. But since it's a text, let's just export it as PNG. I've already done that before, as you can see here. I'm going to do that for the icons now. So we have GitHub. I want this as SVG, so I'll just click on export export MDI GitHub as SVG. So when you come in here, it's going to be grouped together. So just right click and ungroup it. So that way you'll be able to access them one after the other. I had done that earlier. All right, so moving on, let's go back to our VS Code and continue and start importing our images. All right, before we start importing our images, I'm just going to save this and then right click on index.html, you should see an option that say open with live server. If you do not have that, go to extension. You should see extension right here. Sorry, you should see extension down below here, and just search for live server. So this is live server. Click on that and install it. I have it installed already, so I don't need to do that twice. So going back to our files, I'm just going to right click on this, open live server, and should open that in the browser. Beautiful. So we have our smart contract at the moment. There's an image up here because there's nothing to it. That's why we have that empty space right there. Then we have our smart contract, services, solutions, roadmap, and white paper, which is the links we created earlier. So coming back here, we're going to import the logo now, and src dot slash. Once you put dot slash, it should show you all the links you have. So I'm going to click on the src and choose the Serendale.png, and I'm going to save that. That should appear on my page now. It's there, but you can't see it because the image itself is white and the background is white as well. So let's fix that. So we're going to go back up here and import a link. Then give it a relationship of style sheet. And then we want to give it a href of styles. It's called styles.css. That's exactly what we have here. So yeah, and then we'll close our tag. Beautiful. Save that. Then we want to come in here and give the body and give it the background of black. Background color black. Save that, and let's swap back to. So now we can see Serendale, but our links have disappeared. So let's target the nav and everything within that. We want to give it a color of white. Save that, switch back, and yes, now we can see Serendale and we can see everything else. I'm not going to style this yet. That's going to be an much later for the kind of style we are looking for, just to get it looking like this, spaced out like this. That's what we're going to do. But getting it to look like the major the design will be in another video. I just don't want to make this too long, and I don't want to bore you. This is basically teaching you how to structure your HTML. So currently we have one element, a div containing these 5 links, and finally, of course, there are no links yet, so we'll make them a link shortly. And then finally, we need one more div which contains our social icons. So let's import those and move on. All right, back to our index.html. We want to come down to the images and then link them in one after the other, src and dot slash. Within here, we want the GitHub first. Next one should be Reddit. Just to be sure, let's check our design one more time. Okay, so Discord, Reddit, and Twitter. So Discord. Yeah, Discord is first one. Then src equals okay, dot slash Reddit, and finally Twitter. Awesome. So when we save this and go back to our crypto website, we should have our links right there. Beautiful. So now, now that we have our navbar section complete, so we want to create another section below it now, which is the hero section. So we're just going to create a section here, and then within the section we want to have, we'll name this hero section. Let's give it a class of hero section. Class hero dash section. Awesome. So now I want to press enter and then create h1 a tag for h1 and h1 tag, and then right below that we want a p tag, and finally we want 2 buttons. So duplicate this. The button should have a title of, let's see, one is get started, the other one is ecosystems. So get started. And ecosystem. These 2 buttons should be within a div because we want to put them side by side. So we'll put them in their own separate div. So div, and we'll just move this 2 up a bit. So we're just going to go to the Figma file and copy the text from Serendale. Missing font. Yes, I get you. Okay, close that. Inspect. Just go to inspect. If you want to copy the content, and just click on this copy. Come back here. Within the P, we're going to place that in there. They have a few breaks, so we're going to check where that is. So guaranteed. After guaranteed, we want to put a line break. Guaranteed. Here's a BR slash. It's a self-closing tag, so just need one BR here. Tells you to break there. Copy that and go back and see enables. So after enables, yep, BR again, and we save that. Let's check our file out. Our text is there, but you can't see it at the moment. So we'll go to styles of CSS. Within styles of CSS, we're going to go to everything within section. So we'll be targeting section, and we want to give that a color of white. Let's do white. Yeah. Save that, and we should have it looking white now. Okay. So next we want to get our h1 tag. So let's go back to our VS Code index.html, and within this h1 we want to put in our the text there. Fast blockchain, so just copy that. There are several ways you could do this. You could create another h1 right below this one. Shift Alt, which is a bit messy, or you could use the same approach you use for the paragraphs. It's all up to you. But I'm just going to create 2 and copy that. In here, just put a scalable AI. Save. All right. So let's switch back to our crypto site and see how we're doing. So a fast blockchain, scalable AI, and with this, the structure of our HTML is basically complete. So to make this look more like the nav bar, I'm just going to fix this up, and that will be the end of this class. To see the styling and us getting it closer to what the initial UI design we're given looks like, you just check the next, please click on the next video, and that should handle everything relating to the CSS. But for now, let's fix the nav bar and we should be good to go. All right, within the nav bar, we want to give this a display of flex. Display flex. So what this does is it places the children of the nav, everything within the nav, the elements within the nav, not the elements within the element in the nav. Let me explain. So what it does is, this is our nav. So basically the elements within the nav, all it says is the image, this div with the class of links, and then this other div with the class of social icons. So it sees these three and it applies the flex CSS on these three elements. So the P with the smart contract, the P with the services, P with solution, it doesn't affect any of those. Those are under the, those are affected by the div with the class of links. So the parent container is the div with the class of links. So when you apply a flex to the div with the class of links, then that will affect these boys over here. So I will do that shortly, but in the meantime, just know that when you apply class of flex to the nav, it only affects the image, the div, and the other div of class social icons and class links. So image, class links, and class social icons. That's what is affected by our. That's what is affected by our flex. So let's go to the CSS and save that. If we go back to our browser, we should have them. Yep, we should have them linked up side by side. So it doesn't look like it at the moment because of smart contract and then services, solutions, roadmap, white paper, because they are still on top of each other. But remember, like I said, it was only affecting the class of nav, which is the logo, this div, and this div. And as you can see, the logo, this div, and this div are all side by side. So we're going to give these links a display of flex as well, just so they are arranged side by side. Well, let's do that. So we're going to go to the HTML just to confirm the class we gave to it. So we gave it a class of links. So back to styles of CSS, we're going to create a dot links, and first let's give that a border of 1 pixel. Border 1 pixel, of course solid, and it's green, yellow. Yeah, let's save that. What that does is just gives us an outline of what we're working on, so we see what is covering. All right, so I want to give that a display of flex as well, and just save that, and it should be side by side now. Beautiful. But as you can see, they are all touching each other, and our Serendale is still stretched out, so we need to fix that. Okay, so next we want to first of all give the nav a justify content or space evenly. So what that does is it spaces out Serendale, smart contract, and the icons. It spaces them out evenly. And now that that's done, we want to align items center. So what this does is basically make sure that each of them are on this centralized horizontally. Let me just show you what I'm talking about. So I'll save this. And if you notice, Serendale, smart contracts, and the icons are all on a straight line. They're all on a straight line now. All right, finally, let's space out the icon, the links, and we should be done. So, want to come to the link. Remember, when we need to affect something, we go to the div it's in. So what we're going to do now won't be in the nav section or the link section. It's going to be in the dot links and then the P within the dot links. So first of all, let's do what we did earlier and just give this a border and give that a 1 pixel, solid and blue. Save that, and you should see a blue border around each of those links. So this is what we just did. When we needed to justify when we needed to put a flex style on the image, the div with links, and finally the div with social icons. We placed the display flex on the nav. When we needed to put a display flex on these links, we place that display flex on the div with the links class. And finally, now that we need to space them out, we are putting those borders on the P within this div. So with those borders on it, it basically just shows us where they are touching each other. So I'm going to zoom into this a bit. So as you can see, they are all touching one another. So that is what we've done with the border. So that just shows us where the box model of each of these elements. And now to space them apart, we want to do that on the outside, not the inside. So if we want to space them out on the outside, we're just going to give it a margin. So we're going to give the P tags a margin, and that will affect each P, anything that has the tag of P. So Smart Contract has the tag of P, so to give it a margin on the outside. Services has a tag of P to give it a margin. Solution, it will give it a margin, and so on and so forth. Basically, you should get what I mean by now. If you don't, please just leave give your questions in the comment section, and I will treat them as soon as possible. So next, we want to create a margin for each of those P tags, and just give it, maybe let's start with 5 pixels for the space. Save that, and let's see how far that's gone. Yes, that's about right, actually. I think I like that. So let's take this back to 100%. And let's compare that to the design we're currently emulating. So we have that much space. Okay, this needs to be spaced out a little bit more. Yeah, just a little bit more. Don't worry about the fonts. We'll fix all of those later in the CSS section of things. So let's come back here. Just do like maybe, I think 8 pixels should work magic. And let's just settle for 10. Of course, we could easily just check the design and figure out what they used for theirs. So okay, so he didn't use auto align for this, and so we can't really tell the gap between it. Yeah, he didn't use auto align, so we can't tell the margin or the gap. So it's up to us to figure that out. Anyway, so I think 10 works. And with that, we can finally remove our border from this and this, and save that. So we have our nav bar over here, and let's just do the same thing let's just align this everything within the section tab to the center. So display, want to do a flex column. The reason why we are doing this, we're giving a display of flex and then flex direction column, is so that we can use the next two elements which only works with flex, which is justify content, center, and save that. That only works with the flex document. Save and align items, center. So yeah, with that we have basically everything aligned to the center, and we can give it a padding. We can give the entire section a padding of 100 pixels. That's a lot, but yep. And yeah, we have majority of the structure of what we're trying to build. Just so we are super close, we're going to give this P tag within the section. So we'll do the section, do the P, and then we'll give this a text align, center, and save that. And yeah, our text is basically aligned center. We have our 2 buttons. And our nav bar is basically complete. So with that, we've basically come to the end of the HTML structure. I'm going to upload this code to GitHub just so in case you want to look at it. So it will be on my page on GitHub. And yeah, if you have any questions, please leave it in the description or just click on the next link so you can view how I'm going to be styling the CSS. Thank you very much. See you in the next class.